talking about Mark chapter 12, Mark 14 from 12 to 31, and we will be looking at the Last Supper. Um, it's interesting that it is called the Last Supper, but trust me, the guys at this time didn't know it was the Last Supper. So we all know that it's the Last Supper for them. And sometimes you would have pictured that did it look something like this. I stole this off from the Instagram page. But interestingly, I don't know whose hand that is. I found some more interesting one, and I thought I was going to put that up, but I thought, yeah, I think we'll just stick to this for now and see how it goes. I didn't have those chicken legs, which I did. I don't know if anyone had one of the chicken legs anyway. Okay. Oh, it's the chicken foot. Yeah, yeah. But of course, I did try to have some of them there. But today is about the Last Supper. Um, they didn't know that it was the Last Supper, but we know because we've read of their whole experiences. Um, and we'll be going through it in stages and in phases and seeing how, what the significance of the Last Supper meant to the disciples and in retrospect, what it means to us as well. I would have started from the main verse itself, but I thought we'll go a little bit backwards and then take it from there. Walk the life of the disciples as they walked with Jesus. Um, and so I will start off from the selection. Was it random? Now, the Last Supper itself was meant to be a time when Jesus was having his last meal on earth with his disciples. At that point in time, they didn't know, but Jesus had chosen his disciples. And I thought about it and I said, was it random? Did he know about these people? Did he know what their strengths, what their weaknesses were? Did he know who was going to betray him? Did he know Peter was going to deny him? Did he know that, they're going to get angry with Ben's message last week when the woman sprayed a whole jar of perfume and they said, well, we should have just, traded this in and get the money. Did they know, did he know that they were going to chastise him at the point where he asked that, who touched the helm of my garment? And they said, look, there are so many people around you here. How could you say somebody touched you? And that's what we'll be looking at. Did he know any of these things? Did he even know what they were made of? Maybe yes, maybe no. But we do assume that God is the all knowing God. Therefore, we will say that he knows. And therefore, this is how he went. So in Mark chapter 1, from verse 16 to 18, one day Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee. There he saw Simon and his brother Andrew. They were throwing a net into the lake. They were fishermen. Come and follow me, Jesus said. I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left the net and they followed him. Now, this is how Jesus started to pick his 12. Again, in verse 1, in chapter 1, verse 19 to 20, then Jesus walked a little farther. As he did, he saw James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat preparing the nets. Right away, he called out to them. They left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men. Then they followed Jesus. Now, this is just giving us an idea about how he chose them. They had all the garbages with them. They had all their strengths with them. They had all their individual characters with them. He wasn't looking for the finest people on the block. He wasn't looking for, the most eloquent people on the block. He wasn't looking for the prettiest, the handsomest, the richest. The Bible did mention about, when he chose Matthew, and Matthew was a tax collector. And in those days, we knew what tax collectors, what they do. They were quite violent men and things if they have to collect taxes. But Jesus chose them, regardless of what they've done, what they have, what they've done, what they're doing, and whatever their trades job is. In the same way, Jesus has chosen every one of us in this room today, regardless of where you've been, regardless of what you've done. Jesus chose you. And even now, he still chooses you, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of what your strengths are, regardless of what your weaknesses are. He still chooses you. And I want you to take that in and let it sink deep down that God chose you and he loves you. By grace, we have been saved because of your faith in Jesus. You had faith in Jesus, and then he chose you, he saved you. Your salvation does not come from anything you have done. It does not come from anything I have done. It doesn't mean because my parents were Christians. No, my parents were Christians who never went to church. But God chose me. And now they're going to church, which is good. But it really doesn't matter about what your history is. Right here, right now, God has called you and he has chosen you. And it is God's gift to us. In the same way he chose these guys to walk with him, the same way he chose every one of us in this room, even in our weaknesses, even in our strength. And his main aim for choosing you, choosing us, is to be with him. So when he called them first to be with him, to walk with him in the rain, and the times when they were scared in, in the sea, when he said, well, I think we found a ghost walking on the sea. And he said, no, it's not a ghost, it's me, just come. Well, and in the times when he was sleeping in the boat, and they said, do you not care that we perish? And then he woke up and he rebuked the sea. He was with them. His main aim for calling us is to be with him. So two things. We're loved by God. He chose you. He still chooses you, and he wants you to be with him. And I'll lay that as a foundation, and then we then go into this one. Again, this is just saying about how, how he called them. So in Mark 3, from verse 13 to 14, Jesus went up the mountainside. He called certain people to come to him, and they came. He appointed 12 of them so that they will be with him. That's interesting. I know I've said this, but they walked life through him. His 3 years on earth, they walked with him. They saw how he was. Maybe Jesus maybe had some weaknesses. Maybe yes. Maybe they saw it. Maybe they didn't. But he knew them. Um, the miracles he did, feeding the thousands, the healings, the deliverance, raising the dead. His friend Lazarus, they all saw it. The girl who was dead, but Jesus said she's sleeping. They all saw it. The transfiguration, where they all, after he's chosen his beloved, and they lay down before him and they say, let's erect a mountain here just for you, just for every other person, and let's worship you here. They all saw it. So that's one stage there. And I'll just lay another bit of foundation here. I'm going to read Mark. I'm going to read Mark 14, but I'm just laying a bit of a foundation here. Now, the Passover, what does that mean for every Jew? It's their purest of days. It's the moment when, regardless of what they have done all the years going back, it's the Passover. This is the purest of days. I opened up my laptop this morning and I saw Ramadan starts tomorrow. It's the same way these guys, the Jews, take Passover. It's a very, very important one for them. And it doesn't just come because they have to celebrate it. In Exodus chapter 12, I'll just read that. And I'll start from verse 14. Um, I'll start from verse 12 and let us know the significance of the Passover. And this was when God was saving the Israelites from Egypt. On the same night, I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn, both men and animals, and I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord. The blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are, and when I see the blood, I will pass over you. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt. This is a day you are to commemorate. For the generations to come, you shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord, a lasting ordinance. For 7 days you are to eat bread made without yeast. On the first day, remove the yeast from your houses. For whoever eats anything with yeast in it, from the first day until the seventh day, must be cut off from Israel. Now, that's the significance of the Passover to the Jews. It's their purest of days. It's the day when they take out all the leavened bread from their houses. They do not work. It's their purest of days. And that's what the Passover means to them. Now, Mark 14. It was the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now, we do understand what that significance is. That was the time to sacrifice the Passover lamb. Jesus asked his disciples, where Jesus' disciples asked him, where do you want us to go and prepare for you to eat the Passover meal? So he sent out two of his disciples. He told them, go into the city. A man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him. He will enter a house, say to its owner, the teacher asked, where is my guest room? Now, bear in mind, I've said that the Passover is one of the most significant days for the Jews. This is the moment when they have to be pure. This is the moment when they have to be holy. This is the moment when they have to be in their most righteous state. In the same way, have we ever gone through days, weeks, moments when we feel we are the best Christians in the world? When we feel, I think I've been good this week. I've not snapped at that nasty driver that just got in front of me. Um, you know, I've not I've not said something bad to my colleagues at work. I've woken up this week and I've prayed for 30 minutes, 1 hour. I've read my Bible this week. I think I'm doing all right. I think I'm doing great. By my standard, by God's standard, I think if the trumpet should sound, I'll make heaven. Have we ever been in that state? Well, I think sometimes I have been in that state where you feel, oh, if the trumpet should sound now, I'm definitely making heaven. No doubt at all. These guys must be feeling that way as well because it's the Passover. It's their most holy day. It's the day where they rid themselves of sin. It's the day when they are most righteous. And does God, maybe Jesus wants them to feel that way? Maybe, yes. But, and they say to him, well, it's the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. We've gotten rid of all the sins in our lives. We've gotten rid of, all the things that we may be thinking. Let's celebrate it. The disciples left and went into the city. They found things just as Jesus had told them, so they prepared the Passover meal. When evening came, Jesus arrived with the 12 disciples. While they were at the table eating, Jesus said, what I'm about to tell you is true. One of you who is eating with me will hand me over to my enemy. Now, picture this. I've had a very good week. I've read my Bible. I've prayed. I've not, I've lived the best of my Christian life in a whole week. And I am optimistic that if Jesus should come right now, I'm going with him. For he comes to me and says, I think you're going to deny me. And then I'm like, what do you mean I'm going to deny you? These guys have kept themselves holy. They've done everything they need to do as regards the book. And then he said to them, one of you who is eating with me will hand me over to my enemy. And it looked like they've not done enough. Yes, because what happened? Disciples became sad. Looks like it's just, punctured a hole in their expectations, in their hope. One by one, they said to him, "Surely you don't mean me." Well, surely you don't mean me. Because I've literally done everything you want me to do. You know, we have we have gone to this house, we've prepared the meal, we stayed holy. But Jesus said to them, "It is one of you." Jesus replied, "It is the one who dips bread into the bowl with me. Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But how terrible it will be for the one who hands over the Son of Man. It will be better if he had not been born." Now, which takes us back. When he chose them, did he know who was going to betray him? Did he know what will happen eventually? But these guys didn't know. But however, we're not going to go over back to there because someone had decided to betray him. So Jesus knew about that. I'm just going to go again. So in verse 22 to 26, while they were eating, Jesus took bread, he gave thanks and broke it. He handed it to his disciples and said, "Take it, this is my body." Then he took a cup, he gave thanks and handed it to them, and all of them drank from it. Now, this is Jesus who was walking with his disciples for the last 3 years of his life. They know him, and this is the Last Supper. They didn't know it was the Last Supper, and he knew someone was going to betray him to hand him over to his enemies. He also knew that they will all leave him, and we will see that there. He knew that when the days strike, when it's the D-Day, they will all leave him. What did he do at that time? He didn't leave them. He took bread. He gave thanks. He broke it. He handed it to his disciples and said, "Eat it. This is my body." What does that mean for us? It means that regardless of what we think we have done, it means that regardless of what we think, there are moments, maybe exactly, we'll say, I remember when we were in Nigeria, it's, banking system is really, really not as pleasant as it is here that you can just get your appointments by phone. And I remember this very incident where she would say, "I'm going to the bank. I'm going to meet the person at the desk, and I'm going to say this, I'll say that. I'll let them know how I feel about it." And I say, "Well, I think you don't need to say all of that. You need to do it this way and do it calmly." And then she would say, "No, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to tell them." And I'll say, "This is how I want it to be." And I'll say, "Okay, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead." And then eventually, at the end of the day, she'll come back and I say, "Did you do everything you said you want to do?" You say, "No." When I got there, the person at the desk really had a nice smile and everything ended. But regardless of what these guys planned they were going to do, what Jesus knew they were going to do, he dined with them. It doesn't matter what you have done. It doesn't matter that your faith is not enough. It doesn't matter that you're not the most righteous. It doesn't matter that you have not kept the feast of Passover and being the holiest of holies. Jesus will still dine with you. And that's what this means. That's what he says. "Take it. This is my body. Eat with me. Drink with me." He gave thanks and handed it to them. All of them drank from it, including Peter, including Judas. Everybody drank from it. Everybody ate from that bread. And that's the significance for us. "This is my blood of covenant," he said to them. "It is poured out for many. What I'm about to tell you is true. I won't drink wine with you again until the day I drink it in God's kingdom. I guess it was at this time they knew this was the Last Supper. Because they would have thought, what is he saying? I thought we still have many years to go. Jesus, you're just 33 years old. You can't tell me you're dying yet. And then they sang him and went to the Mount of Olives. And then he continued, you will all turn away. Jesus told his disciples, it is written, I will strike the shepherd down, then the sheep will be scattered. But after I rise from the dead, I will go ahead of you into Galilee. And then the spokesman for all the disciples said, all others may turn away, but I will not. I will not. It doesn't matter what you're saying. All others may run away, but I will not. I have been a spokesman for everybody. I have kept the feast of unleavened bread. I have been holy. I have been righteous. I am not going anywhere. But Jesus said, what I'm about to tell you is true. Jesus answered, it will happen today. In fact, tonight it will happen. Before the rooster crows thrice, you yourself will say 3 times that you don't know me. But Peter will not give in. Have we ever felt that way sometimes when we think, Jesus, I'm never going to leave you. I'm never going to deny you. It doesn't matter what happens. No, no, no. I'm not going anywhere. We're staying through it thick and clean. And this is what Peter was saying. He says, Peter would not give in. He said, I may have to die with you, but I would never say I don't know you. And that's man speaking. But after he said that, this is what happened. Every other person said the same thing because they thought, well, our spokesman has spoken and we'll say the same thing. But this is what happens is that our righteousness and our determination is never enough as Christians. We are not Christians by our commitment to be Christians. And Andrea brought that word from Hebrews, talking about Jesus, our high priest. Um, he, he is our high priest. He intercedes for us every moment, at every time. And it's not by our own willingness that we're able to say we're standing firm. The Bible says, take heed, he that thinks he stands, let him observe lest he falls. But at that point, it takes us back to Luke chapter 22 from verse 31. And this is when Jesus said to Simon at that point in time, he said, Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift all of you disciples like wheat, but I have prayed for you. I have prayed that your faith will not fail. When you have turned back, help your brothers to be strong. But again, the Bible is not written in this way, but this is how every other person reporting it. But Simon said, Lord, I am ready to go with you to prison. Jesus answered, I tell you, Peter, you will say 3 times that you don't know me, and you will do it today before the rooster crows. Now, I did say that our self-determination is not what keeps us as Christians. Charles Spurgeon said, he said, the greatest enemy to human souls is the self-righteous spirit, which makes them look to themselves to salvation. Our self-righteousness is not enough. It's the greatest enemy that we've got. Now, while we were yet in sin, Christ died for us. While these guys were fishermen, while these guys were tax collectors, Jesus called them and said to them, walk with me, do life with me. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what experiences they have got from Jesus. Their own righteousness and self-holiness is still not enough to save them. And it's the same thing for all of us. We daily need the flow of Christ in our lives to keep us with him. Our self-righteousness is never enough. It is never enough to save us. So, Jesus knows us despite our strength, despite our weaknesses. He called us to walk with him. He invites us daily to daily walk with him, to fellowship with him, to dine with him, regardless of whatever our shortcomings are. Jesus wants to. And even when we fail and when we know that we have failed him, he still loves us. Now, one of the most interesting persons in the whole Last Supper and denying Jesus was Judas. Sometimes we want to keep him quiet. But the Bible did say to us that all of these things are written for our own experience, to teach us, to lead us, to guide us, to make us make the right decisions at every point in time. There were two people in question in that place. One of them was Peter, the next one was Judas. Both of them and all the disciples, they all fell. They denied Jesus. Yes? But Judas ran away from Jesus. But Peter ran back to Jesus. And that's the significance for us. That regardless of what grave sin we have committed or what we think we have committed, Jesus wants us to run to him. If you do run to him, and when you do run to him, he runs to us. But it's the opposite of what Judas did. He ran away and he killed himself. But God doesn't want that from us. He is our high priest. He makes intercessions for us at all times, at every moment. Jesus is our high priest, and that's what it says in Hebrews. So in Hebrews 7:25, I'll start from verse 23. Now there have been many of these priests since death prevented them from continuing in office, but Jesus lives forever. He has a permanent priesthood. Therefore, he's able to save completely those who come to God through him because he always lives to intercede for them. Andrea brought that word about Jesus being our high priest. And Jesus is our high priest. He intercedes for us because he loves us, because he wants to be with us. And even if we have failed, even if we have done everything, he still wants us to run to him. Everyone left Jesus. The 12 disciples ran away from Jesus. But what did Jesus do? After he died, after he came back, after he had taken all their sins away, after he had become the sacrificial lamb, like the Passover in Exodus 12, Jesus came back to them and said, "Friends, do you have any fish? Do you have any fish?" Because he wanted to dine with them. And this morning is the same question Jesus is asking. Friends, do you have any fish? Can I dine with you? Can I live with you? Can I do life with you? It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter if you left me alone on the cross and I had to scream to my Father and say, my God, why have you forsaken me? It doesn't matter. He still comes and he invites us in. Say, friends, do you have any fish? And he doesn't want it to be the last supper. He wants to dine with you every single day, every single moment. And he's asking us, let me in. Let me in. Amen.